Greetings, my fellow tokers, jokers, and smokers. Chef Rodney 117 is my name, and being sardonic is my game. I love to cook, write, and smoke a lot. But what interests me the more is my insatiable interest in the universe around me. In this case, cannabis specifically. So come join me for some meaningful conversations with some of the most influential and pioneering individuals in the cannabis industry today. Here is a look at who they are, what they do, where they came from, and why they do what they do, and where we can expect them to go from here. Here at the Deliciously Dope's Daily Chronicles, we have created 5 W's in order to help you figure this out. Who doesn't like a good W every now and then, right? Right. So let's get into it. This is the Deliciously Dope Daily Chronicles coming at you. And we are back with another episode of the Daily Chronicles. I am the host with the most, Chef Rodney 117. What's today's topic, y'all? What are we going to boycott? What's going on? We'll get to that in a moment. But to understand why this is a problem, I need to first introduce today's guest. Grant Smith Ellis is a disabled former graduate student who currently engages in the community as a medical cannabis patient advocate, grassroots news reporter, and via his role as the president of the Massachusetts Cannabis Reform Coalition. Thanks y'all for introducing that MassCann. That's a lot easier to say for someone with a lip piercing such as myself. But he's provides public testimonies and other influential sessions to lawmakers and regulators around the country since 2017. Y'all, it's amazing what he's doing, okay? Now, he also broadcasts all of his monthly meetings of the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission, including a pre- and post-show via his Facebook page. But for exclusives, y'all, the early access and whatnot to Grant's coverage of all of those things, make sure you sign up at his Patreon at patreon.com/Grant Smith Ellis. Without any other further ado, I give you guys my friend, Grant Smith Ellis. Grant, how you doing today? Welcome to the show.
Good to be with you, Rodney. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate that kind introduction. It's very interesting to talk about cannabis policy sometimes, and it's hard to really explain how someone even gets involved with that. So I think you did a good job there.
Thank you. Mr. Hako already tuning in live from Boston, man. He's saying that you're an amazing mammal. I do have to concur with that, sir. I do have to concur with that. Hako in for the treat. All right, guys, check it out. So, the W's, Grant. Let's find out who you are, where you came from, why you do what you do, and what we can expect from, Grant here on out. So if you're down with it, man, I want to hear a little bit about how you came to be just you, why you do what you do. There's always a backstory. There's always 2 sides to a coin. Here's the thing. Long are we, creatures of instant gratification. I flip a coin. I got a 50-50 shot to be right or wrong. You see what I'm saying? The point is there's always a flip side to the coin. You understand? I want you to give it to me direct. Just tell me what I need to know, what you want the people of the world to know about you, bud. You see what I'm saying? Because here's what I see. I see an activist. I see an ex-military vet. I see someone from
No. I appreciate that kind words,
yeah.
but I felt disabled, not related to military service.
Okay. So see, that's my point. Like, I see all these things coming out at me, and then I catch you doing your MassCann meetings. I'm part of that community. I watch that as well. A lot of friends into it. And you got to support your friends. You know what I mean? I see you talking to these lawmakers. I see you like stepping foot in these court. Like, see these things, man. I hear this. That's influential as shit. I mean, dude, it's insane. And like, when you put that up to all of these people coming forward, all these grassroots people, that are coming forward and fighting against, this injustice. I mean, honestly, what's going to be next for the people to take away from us? Is it laughter? Am I going to laugh and a robot come into the room and laughter detected, and then fine me $100 per laugh, like the fucking swear jar? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's, come on, man. But we got people like you that are doing what you're doing because you've survived something in your life, kind of like you've kind of overcome something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, no, I appreciate that. And you're driving in the right direction. It's interesting. I'm used to, oh, sorry. I wasn't expecting that to be as strong as it was. I'm used to asking the questions in interviews. I'm not very used to being interviewed. You did point it out though. What I do now, I'm disabled. I'm homebound, actually. I'm a medical cannabis patient, and I not only broadcast the Cannabis Control Commission meetings, but I testify as an advocate and activist at various legislative hearings in front of, legislative committees that are dealing with cannabis bills, and I do that all throughout New England, New Hampshire. I was just hanging out in Maine with the Veterans and Legal Affairs Committee yesterday. There's some issues going on there I'm sure we'll dive into. I've been hanging out in Connecticut over the past month, and I also testify in Massachusetts, although there's not as much going on there. But anyway, before I got into all of that, back in 2014, like you said, I was a graduate student at Boston College. I had been at Boston College since 2007. Got my undergrad degree there in political science and philosophy. And then right from my undergrad degree in 2011, I went to graduate school and I wanted to become a professor of political philosophy. And about 4 years in to that degree, 2014, the spring, I was working as a librarian. I was a TA, teacher's assistant for some classes. I was writing a thesis. And overnight on May 6, 2014, I fell seriously disabled. My throat began collapsing. My esophagus started penetrating into my airway. My airway started penetrating into my esophagus. I developed trigeminal neuralgia in my face. I lost vision in one of my eyes. And this was all overnight. I had been perfectly fine the day before. Yep. Yeah. So spent 18 months in and out of the hospital, got lumbar punctures, they thought it was meningitis at one point, all these tests. And eventually the doctors found out what had happened was I developed a condition called visceroptosis, which is a displacement of the abdominal viscera. And it was caused by a surgery I had some years prior. And they put it all together. They figured out basically my throat was crushing itself. My abdomen was all out of whack. And through physical therapy and medical cannabis, I slowly started to rebuild my life. But the point in all that is by the time the doctors figured it out and got me on a medical regimen that was at least keeping me stable and not in the hospital, I had lost my job as a librarian at BC. I had lost my graduate school. I had lost the prospect of becoming an academic, and I was kind of left adrift with no meaning, no reason to get up every day until I found grassroots cannabis activism back in 2016, 2017. And we can talk more about what happened, but basically due to a bunch of, I guess, hard work and lucky coincidences, I ended up being able to play a central role in more recent cannabis activism. I have not been around since the beginning. Cannabis activism in Massachusetts goes back to pre-1980s, but it really started picking up with the first medical initiative in 1991. And then, of course, decrim in 2008, full medical in 2012, full adult use legalization in 2016. So I've been around for only the past 5 years, but even just the past 5 years, I've been able to see a lot as our Cannabis Control Commission rolled out during that time. And there's been a lot of interesting things I've seen, and I feel like I have a unique perspective on it because I came at it not from someone who was looking to open a business or from that perspective, but rather I wanted to be a priest when I was in graduate school. So I kind of take everything from the perspective of, how can we write rules and laws that everyone can follow without benefiting any one particular company or group of people? And it's hard to do, but it's rewarding.
Oh, dude, and that's the thing. Like, sometimes at the end of the day, it's not about the money, man. That's really what you got to say. And it's about how this directly affected you. You seem like a very giving person, and honestly, that needs to like be more promoted, like amped up. Like, dude, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, that's. You wouldn't exist for me to talk to and draw inspiration from and kind of help in this, I wouldn't say scene, but like, in this industry, we're all we're molding, I used to be a chef, I still am a chef. I still cook a lot of food. Now I find myself writing more and creating these shows, it's still creating something and it is what it is, but it's like, it's the blurring of two worlds, if you will. I mean, holy shit, you almost died. And there's a few times I almost died as well, but the two aren't comparable. They're just different walks of life. Yours happened to you instantly overnight. Mine was from years of, copious amounts of alcohol. So one self-inflicted, the other one not. The point is the healing, the recovery, the ability to give back to the people, and that's kind of why, like, Deliciously Dope Daily Chronicles exists, man. Like, that's the point, y'all. We're bringing it to you. We're telling you why these people are important, like Mr. Ellis here, dude. Yo, to flip script on life like that, to going from having almost died instantly overnight from something that just happened, man, from something you thought was repaired years ago. Can I ask you, kind of off the record a little bit, like, is there any PTSD from that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't I guess laughing is how I cope with it, but
as we all do.
Yeah, it's not something I talk about a lot, but yeah, I mean, the first 18 months of that was horrific.
Traumatic as fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I don't know how to. I'm very good at describing things. I don't know how to describe that. It was a very dark period, and every day, when you first fall disabled, it's almost like getting the flu or getting a cold, not in the sense of the extreme nature of it, but your whole life you're used to getting sick and then not being sick anymore. And even when you break your leg or your arm or whatever, you're used to being told, okay, you're going to be in a cast for 6 weeks. And so you can always look to that light at the end of the tunnel. But when you fall seriously disabled and they don't know what's wrong, there is no light at the end of the tunnel. And so that transition, you're reacclimating yourself to a new normal where there is no hope of getting better. And you can eventually come out the other side, but the process itself, I mean, there were whole months and years of my life, I'm sure I was crying every day. I don't remember any of that. I've completely blacked it out of my memory, but yeah,
because that's what your mind does in order to help you survive. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like,
no, sorry.
That's what happened in my case. So after drinking, like, I just one day woke up and was like, I had like an entire like morning of panic attacks, and I never really had panic. I mean, I had a few here and there, but I suppressed them with so much alcohol, and now this one, it's not in my system. And so I just woke up and I freaked the fuck out, man. I want to tell you, I didn't know who I was. Like, it was like being drunk, but I didn't want to do it anymore. It was just like waking up out of a tar almost. It was really, really, really like painful experience. And like me being this, sardonic, like tough chef, like I'm in this industry, like no bitches allowed and stuff like that. And it's just like, dude, all of these emotions and feelings just came rushing to me in the span of like the next 4 or 5 hours. I was trying to process everything, and I'm just like, wait, what? Which way is up? And like, that cup of coffee was, I didn't have it. I couldn't drink it. It was, you know what I mean? That morning was crazy. Long story short, I ended up seeing a therapist for it, and he diagnosed me with the only way he could explain it was short-term retrograde amnesia. Mm-hmm. So basically the way he says, he goes is, listen, you went through some traumatic shit because of substance abuse or for whatever events that's created a PTSD, okay? In the form of blocking these channels until you're allowed to subscribe to them. I go, that makes sense. What he didn't say was it was like a really bad acid trip, whereas like you have that, you go into an acid trip 2 days later and you're like, oh shit, I didn't sign up for 2 days of this shit. I just wanted to party on the weekend. You know what I mean? I got to go back to work. It's happened to me before, where you pop some acid and then a couple of days later you're driving and you just get to work and you're like, nope, there it is. Out of nowhere. That's why I don't do acid anymore. Plus I'm not 19. Anyway.
Well, I'll tell you, we didn't talk ahead of time or anything about this, but our experiences are similar than you maybe realize. When I was 21, I stopped drinking alcohol entirely. When I was 16 years old, I was 310 pounds. And I drank a decent amount of liquor. By the time I got to college in 2007 at age 18, I was still 310 pounds. And over that first 9 months of college, I went down to 185 pounds. Well, I kept drinking at the rate I used to, and eventually it wore me down. So on the day I turned 21, I quit drinking entirely. And after I fell disabled, unfortunately, I couldn't use some of the other things I had enjoyed prior to falling disabled. I won't mention any specific substances, but I was worried that because my optic nerve was impacted, that if I did anything that impacted my vision, I could risk, messing with my nerve. So I just stopped. So now I only do cannabis these days.
And that's where I'm at, buddy. That's where I'm at. I might dabble a little bit with mushrooms here and there if I'm bored, you know what I mean? But that's a whole different story. And that's what I do condone. Cannabis isn't the gateway drug. Cannabis, well, if it's a gateway of anything, it's a gateway to like fucking healing. You know what I'm saying? And that's, again, getting back to the reason this show exists. Like, we've been healed from this, however you want to look at it, from almost dying, if you will, to now. There's a reason we've kind of pivoted on life, and there's a reason that we've kind of done this. And in order for us to share that reason with our viewers, our listeners, and the people of the world, and ourselves here, Deliciously Dope TV, we have the W's, and that's why we did the pinpoints, because everybody would like to know who, what, when, where, and why. That much we want to know. The how, bitch, we know how. You smoking that weed, that's what happened. We know how you're doing it. We can see you doing it. We just want to know the pinpoints. So that's the 5 W's. Plus, let's face it, who don't like some W's in life? Everybody likes to win. So without any other further ado, man, I'm going to take a bong rip. We'll get right into it if you want.
Go ahead.
Hell yeah. Meet Ramona.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
I know we're going to get into the questions, but I told you my throat, my esophagus and airway don't work. That's why I have to smoke joints, because I can breathe a lot of air, and I can't make the vacuum to pull on glass anymore. But back in the day, before I fell disabled, I used to be involved with a head shop. And after I answer the questions, I'll show you the one piece of glass that I still have from back in the day.
Hell yeah, you got it, buddy. All right, without any other further ado, y'all, the W's. First time W is Grant. If you're ready, who, what, when, where, and why? Who was the first person you ever smoked weed with?
Myself, behind a shed in 10th grade on a day when there's a delayed opening for state testing. So there you go.
All right. Robert Hawko says it's an exit plant. Yep, it absolutely 100% is an exit plant. It is, absolutely. All right. First time W's, Grant? Who, what, when, where, and why? What was the first thing you smoked? You said it was a joint?
Yeah, it was a joint. I still remember it to this day. I forget I remember who I got the bag from. He sadly has passed away. Thinking about him for a moment, but yes, I did not do a very good job breaking it up. It was actually surprisingly decent bud, and it didn't break into powder. It kind of broke into small little balls. And so
Right.
I maybe got like 4 hits off a full joint, and most of it just kind of burned away in the wind. But it was, maybe 9:30 in the morning. I had to get to class at 9:50 in the morning, and I was only, in 10th grade or whatever it was. So I remember I went to class and there was a delayed opening, and I was so sort of overwhelmed. I had to put my headphones on, put my sweatshirt hood up, and just listen to music throughout that entire modern world history class. I still remember it. It was modern European history. And I could not listen. I could not. And I may have even had to go home after that because it was that overwhelming. But I still remember that to this day.
I love it. I love it, man. Hawko's asking if that glass piece is the one that you had at Terp Town.
If it was a, he'll probably remember it. If it was in a Pelican case and it had like space theme, like moons and leaves on the back, glass leaves, that one's it. Yep.
Most likely that's the one he's referring to. First time W's, who, what, when, where, and why. When was your first time smoking a left-handed cigarette? So it was the time you're talking about right now.
Yeah, first time I smoked cannabis was a joint that I rolled myself. It was absolutely horrible, and it had to have been 2005.
2000. Oh, that's not that long ago.
No, not that long ago.
That's long. It's appropriate for our generation because you're what? How old are you? I'm 34. How old are you?
I stopped counting a few years ago, somewhere between 30 and 32.
And that's my point. So it's the 30s generation. Like, this is the shit. Like, we've smoked from pop cans. I ain't afraid of no corona. You know what I mean? I am afraid of corona, but I'm just saying.
Well, see, now you remind me of another story. It was not the first time I smoked, but I was.
Get into it.
Well, no, it wasn't. It's by no means the greatest story, but there was a time when I did smoke out of the soda can.
The proverbial pop can. Yeah.
What I thought was interesting was someone at the time, kid whose name I won't say, brought some ice cubes and said, "Oh, well, if you put the ice cube in your mouth and then take a hit from the can, it will be cooler smoke." And that was the first version of an ice catcher that I didn't know what I was doing, but it worked.
Yeah. This works. I like the effects that I feel from doing this. I get that. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. It does. All right, man. Well, first time W's, who, what, when, where, and why. Where were you when you first smoked weed? This was behind.
Well, yeah. So I wouldn't even call it a shed. My family at the property we lived at the time had a sort of children's play structure that was kind of a barn. I'd say it was maybe like 10 feet tall, 7.5 feet across, 7.5 feet depth. So it was not a very big, barn, but I was between that and my neighbor's fence, which was like a 1 foot area. And it was the only place I thought I wouldn't be seen. So,
right. Hey, there you go. And it's interesting that you should point on that, because it's like, there were a lot of times back in my life when I was trying to sneak away and go smoke a joint and it was like, well, shit. And so then I just learned this little technique that the police officers used back then called hidden in plain sight. Because here's the thing. If you know people that are of law enforcement back then, this is during DARE and all of that. And, when they cracked down the war on drugs, like back when, like, you can get caught with, I don't know, a jar of marijuana now and land in prison for, let's see, life. They didn't, it was 0 to 100 real quick then. We're hoping we can change that. You feel me? Because no one should have ever went to jail for any of that shit. But the point is here, we all tried to hide. And if you didn't pay attention to how to get in trouble, ergo, in these hiding spots, they're watching those. They know. You know what I'm saying? They know what it was like to be 16. They didn't have cameras and shit back then. And they had to walk up school, up both ways, uphill and downhill and snow to school and shit. Remember all that stupid story? The point is, Get with the times. Just let it go, people. Speaking of letting it go, who, what, when, where, and why, to tie it up in a neat little bow and to send off the first time W's, to marked done. I want to know who, what, when, where, and why. Why, Grant, did you smoke weed for the first time?
I don't know. I think because there was a rush to it, in the sense that it was something I was told I couldn't do. So I figured, well, if they tell me I can't do it and it's a plant and I can, do chewing tobacco, which I was already doing, while playing football or, whatever it was, I don't see why I can't, smoke this plant. So I think that was the answer to why. Now, there was one more quick I will tell was that was the first time I hit a joint. The first time I hit a bong was with another gentleman who it was maybe a year, maybe 6 months after I hit the joint that I had talked about earlier. And I had a day at school. We had this block schedule, so you could have some classes that would get canceled, and if those blocks were free, you would just be able to leave or do whatever you wanted. So I had this day at school where for some reason 5 of my 6 classes were canceled, and I went with someone to smoke a bong at his house. And we drove back to the school, and I remember getting out, going to the library, and I was sitting at a table at the library, and I was trying to color with colored pencils, and I was so overwhelmed with laughter, I had to leave all of my things just in the library, get up, and walk home.
I'm out.
I just had to walk home. I laid down in bed for 3 hours, came back, got my stuff, and then went home again. That was the end of that day.
I love it, man. I love it. Now, before we move on, and I got to pull this back up. I had it pulled up. I want to make sure that I'm saying everything right. And we have it, to go in front of us. We can go in front of this. So I want to make sure that all of everything I say is correct. I want to talk about what you're boycotting and why.
I'm boycotting a few different things, actually. There's one I'm sure you want to talk about, which is a company locally. But first, I'll tell you, still boycotting the Commonwealth Dispensary Association. They're a group of local dispensaries that back in January filed a lawsuit to stop the rollout of Massachusetts' new equity delivery rules. And the reason they wanted to stop that rollout was they felt that only retail brick and mortar stores should be able to do delivery, basically. They wanted there to be these couriers that existed, but in reality, they asked the court in a filing I can link to if people want to read it, to basically allow the brick and mortar stores to open right away. So Massachusetts has this system where delivery companies during the first 3 years have to be either a social equity or economic empowerment applicant. Those are the companies that have been the most harmed by the war on drugs. And the 2 types of delivery licenses in Massachusetts that exist are, one is called a courier. Now, under that license, you can own a fleet of cars, and then you're basically like Uber Eats. You can pick up an order from a dispensary, you pay the dispensary retail price, and then you can bring the order to a customer, you make the delivery fee. It's not a very viable model, but it has a low barrier to entry, quote unquote. I don't really believe that, but that was the logic behind it. The other model is called the delivery operator model. Now, this model allows an equity company, an EE or an SE, to own a warehouse or a space, own a vault, buy product, flour, edibles, concentrates, whatever, at wholesale from cultivators or manufacturers, store it in their vault, and then deliver orders directly to consumers so they don't have to go through that dispensary middleman. Well, the Commonwealth Dispensary Association said, no, we think there should only be couriers. Brick and mortar retailers should be a mandated middleman in every delivery. And not only that, this is what the CDA said to a judge. As the CDA, we don't think there should even be a priority period for equity companies. We want to be able to do our deliveries with our courier licenses in-house right now. So they wanted to have their own courier license, cut out the equity courier companies, and do their own. That was what they argued for. So they filed this lawsuit. And as a result, back in January, we started boycotting. By we, I mean myself and some friends locally. That lawsuit was dropped, but the boycott was kept up on the CDA because this was not the first time the CDA had done something like this. In fact, a couple years ago, they worked with a lawmaker in Massachusetts named Hannah Kane, who tried to stop legalization from happening to begin with in 2016 to propose a drug war task force bill. You know why they wanted to propose it? Because they wanted to bring the state police together with the tax agencies in Massachusetts to go after the unregulated market because they said it was a threat to their profits. So that's the CDA boycott, which is still going on, even though the delivery lawsuit got dropped. But now there's another boycott, which is NETA, New England Treatment Access, which is owned by...
That's the one I want to talk about, yeah.
Yeah, it's owned by a multi-state operator named Parallel. Parallel is owned by the heir to the Wrigley gum fortune. You may have heard of Wrigley's gum.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Bew Ridley, I think. I almost said Bew Ridley, which was a combination of Boo Ridley and Bew from To Kill a Mockingbird. Which
I think it was Boo Radley.
Boo Radley, yeah, there you go.
There you go. Yep.
Yes.
Harper Lee, I got you, fam.
That is a very good book and movie.
Great book. Oh, yeah.
But yes, so this company owned by the heir to the Wrigley's gum fortune, Parallel, owns New England Treatment Access, which has locations in Franklin and Brookline in Massachusetts, a cultivation and retail. Okay. Their director of community outreach and equity programming, corporate social responsibility, was a woman named Kim Napoli. Kim Napoli is one of the people who helped legalization pass in 2016 in Massachusetts. She's a longstanding advocate and activist. Now, I told you about that CDA boycott. The reason why the lawsuit was dropped was because some of the CDA's biggest members who paid $1,000 a month in dues started leaving. Guess who was one of the companies that left the CDA? NETA. And why did they leave the CDA? Because Kim Napoli made sure that they understood why that lawsuit was wrong, among other people. So now, 2 months later, Kim Napoli gets fired. While her daughter, baby Shea, and she's been public about this, which is why I feel comfortable talking about it, while her daughter is in the hospital, she's a 1-year-old child. She's been in the hospital for 7 months fighting a severe form of childhood leukemia. So this company fires Kim Napoli yesterday. And the reason they gave for firing her, and you can read more about this in the Boston Globe, great article by Dan Adams. I'm actually quoted in it, but that's not at all why I'm recommending it. I'm recommending it because Dan Adams did an excellent job explaining this. They fired her, according to a statement given to Dan Adams in the Globe this morning, because her husband, they said, opened a dispensary in Massachusetts. But the thing is, her husband is a gentleman who runs a company called The Hempist. And The Hempist has been operating in Massachusetts as a pioneer for cannabis rights dating back 30 years, 25 or 30 years. So not only that, but John, her husband, announced his plans to open this retail dispensary years ago. And this process has been ongoing. So even though he just opened last month, they've known about it for however long. And what's even stranger is Kim, as John was quoted in today's Boston Globe as saying, has no relationship to John's dispensary. So anyway, NETA fired Kim Napoli yesterday, and folks may not be aware of the treatment costs for childhood leukemia, but it can easily exceed $1 million. So yesterday, not only did I and some other folks quickly joined as well announce a boycott of NETA for their decision to fire Kim in light of all those circumstances we just talked about. But on top of that, Kim started a GoFundMe for her medical expenses for baby Shea back in October. And I've also, and folks as well, have been sharing out that GoFundMe because, as Dan Adams noted in his article, NETA firing Kim may mean that those healthcare costs for baby Shea are not going to be covered anymore going forward. So I think I said it was a shock to the conscience, but it almost brings tears to my eyes that they would do this to someone who's for 7 months been sitting in a childhood cancer ward as their 1-year-old daughter fights for her life with leukemia. So that's why we're boycotting New England Treatment Access in Parallel.
Well, if you need any more help, you let us know. We'll do whatever we can, including make sure we get the link for the GoFundMe. We'll definitely share that out. When I hear about stories like that, it's absolutely tragic. However, I do look at what are some of the silver linings of these situations. One of the silver linings is, fortunately, the whole reason that they got into trouble with the whole thing is him having that said dispensary, opening it up and stuff like that. So they do have some success to look forward to, some positive legs to stand on. As you well know, dispensaries make a good amount of money, so there's going to be some help. However, take one of those legs off and the table's wobbly financially if you think about it. And that's the part that we're helping with. So you're absolutely correct. It will meet or exceed, an exorbitant amount of dollars for what? You know what I'm saying? That's my point. Like, medical costs are a whole different thing to boycott. You know what I'm saying? And they don't like, grassroots individuals like yourself, and they don't like people who smoke weed and things like that. This is going to be a clash that you're going to see more than once, y'all. But as a group, of people in this frontier, in this industry, in this friend zone, we definitely have to be able to help out and reach out, with some of our favorite people and what they care about. And we're honestly, Deliciously Dope's gonna do what we absolutely can, whether it be financial, whether it be, just advertising and getting the word out there. We're gonna help you guys, cover, what we can of the stupid. Why are medical costs so? Why don't we have universal health care yet? Like, these are the things like, holy shit, you know what I mean? Just as a small little pinpoint, like it would make life so much different for so many people.
Well, but I can I can answer that question with an analogy to what we just talked about. So think about the decision the Cannabis Control Commission had to make last summer. And I was there. There's so many other great advocates were there as well. I don't want to start naming them, because if I name 7 people and forget 12, I'll be frustrated. But a huge group of people spent a lot of time fighting in front of the Cannabis Control Commission before that lawsuit even got filed to get those regulations passed. And what was the Cannabis Control Commission presented with? They were presented with the following question: do you want to make rules that protect the profits of the existing dispensaries, which is what the CDA was advocating for, or do you want to make rules that are actually going to create an equal playing field and make a fair process? So when you say, and you see the CCC, the Cannabis Control Commission in Massachusetts, decided in that case to make a fair process, and even though they got sued, the rules are still in place, all that good stuff.
Right.
Healthcare, this debate goes back. It started before the 1930s, but it really was sort of finalized in the 1930s. Healthcare was the same question. When FDR was presented with the Great Depression and what to do with healthcare, he was basically presented with the same thing. Do you want to create a system that's going to protect the wealth of a few companies at the expense of everyone else, or do you want to create a system that's at least somewhat fair? He couldn't get everything he wanted for reasons I'll explain if you really want, but it's just because the Supreme Court at the time was very conservative, because they were appointed by so Woodrow Wilson was elected in 1912. He served through 1920. In 1920, Harding was elected, and he was followed by Cleveland and Hoover. And for that 8 years, a majority of the Supreme Court was replaced. Intentionally, the justices resigned so that there'd be a conservative majority on the court through reappointment. But anyway, as a result, by the time FDR comes around in 32, and when the New Deal is happening, the Supreme Court, although the Democrats, the Social Democrats at the time, had a supermajority in Congress, so they had control of the Senate, they had control of the House, they had the presidency. FDR was winning by, like 488 electoral votes to like 100. It wasn't even close. But he couldn't get everything he wanted to get done because the Supreme Court was very conservative. So he went to the financiers, and even though they were stopping him from doing like progressive healthcare reform at the time, although he did a lot of good stuff, he said to them, you have a choice. Either you give up a little bit now, or we risk losing this whole system to like collapse. And so they gave a little bit, and as a result of that, we got Medicare, Social Security, a lot of other good stuff. But over the past 70 years, there has not been one single cave from the other side. We won what we won, but never once have they caved again. In fact, it's just been the opposite. Every time there's been a chance to change something related to healthcare costs, and the question has been, are we going to benefit the companies or everyone? They've always, over the past 70 years, both parties benefited the companies.
That's not okay. You know, that's not okay. It's so fucked. You know, that's a whole different conversation that we can have off camera. You know, that's just, it's you know what I mean? It's just, I look at it, I'm just like, it don't matter what side, you know, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're living on, you're still in the same shitty city. That's what it is. You know, and that right now is kind of just like the United States government. We don't fucking know which way's up. You know what I'm saying? That's just, it's, how do you trust anything, you know?
Yeah, let me give you an example. So in 2008, when Barack Obama ran for president, he ran on a single payer system, which is this idea where basically people's taxes go in and the government acts as the sole insurance payer, kind of like Britain's National Health Service, which is very good. When he got into office, what was the first thing he did? He compromised on that. And instead of a single payer system under Obamacare, we ended up with a mandate to purchase private insurance. And why is that? Because people in the insurance industry went to Obama and said, we will not let your bill through Congress if you do not cave to us on this issue. So that kind of thing happens every day. City, local government, state government, federal government, it doesn't matter. It's happening every day on every issue. And what gives me a little bit of hope about the cannabis industry, especially in Massachusetts, New England, and a few other states, Illinois is doing pretty well.
New York's popping off now.
Yes, and we can get to that. There's some nuance there. But my point is that it gives me a lot of faith because unlike almost every other industry, healthcare, regulated commodities like securities, you know, stocks, even like oil or, you know, like railroads or transportation or shipping, all those industries are completely controlled by a few small, very wealthy players. The cannabis industry, because it's an emerging market, is actually not. There are, in some places it is, but in some places there are actually opportunities for these decisions to be made without benefiting companies. And we've seen it over the past year in Massachusetts. We got expanded caregiver ratios. One cool thing about Massachusetts is we have this entirely pro bono caregiver structure for the most vulnerable patients in the state who are on a fixed income or otherwise, you know, can't afford medicine at a dispensary. Caregivers can grow 500 square feet for up to 5 patients each caregiver, and that cannabis can then be given to the patient just for the cost of the grow. So the caregiver can get reimbursed for the material, transportation. And that's, anyway, that kind of thing only happened in Massachusetts because our system is not completely controlled by corporations. But in Maine, in Connecticut, in New York, where they're trying to flesh out these new laws, those companies are trying to control it. And in Maine, for example, some of the biggest opponents of any of the changes that to Maine's caregiver program, I don't know if you know about this, it's Maine's caregiver program is not pro bono. It's for profit. There are 5,000 small local caregivers in Maine that can grow up to 30 plants at any time and then have their own retail store on their property even and just sell their own bud. So now here's the thing. Anytime that there's a proposal to expand those caregiver rules, guess who sends lawyers to oppose it? The big MSOs like Curaleaf and others, because they know that anything that helps small players will impact their bottom line. And that's the big thing. How are not just individual activists, but how are we across the country going to stop these very wealthy cannabis companies from going into local cities and towns in every state and getting in the ear when we don't have those resources? And that's the fight.
Yeah, I know. I'm right there with you. You know, it's, but here's what they don't understand. Okay. These big corporations, these are the kind of people where they're like, all right, yeah, they might smoke weed. They may have smoked weed in college and always had an affinity for weed. Fine. Okay. But fine. Fine. Whatever reason you've decided to turn for profit, that's your own personal reason. Unless you want me to get pissed at you, I'm not going to ask you what it is. I'm just going to assume I know what it is. All right? Oh, wait, you want to tell me. Now I can have an opinion. That's what they don't expect. A. B. That black market's still going to be there, baby. You have to understand. From the time that it was made federally illegal and banned early in the 20s, around the time that you're talking about, in the 30s and stuff like that, all of that prohibition of cannabis and marijuana and all of that shit went down. You understand? Okay. From that time till now, even still a little bit now, let's face it, in some country, some countries and some states and across the globe. The point is, we're just coming back from that, y'all. Okay. I hold enough, cannabis here in my hand to, this would have landed people in prison, life sentences, died in prison for holding this that I grew myself. You know what I'm saying? That's my point. It's a very unjust system for something. Like I said, are they going to make laughter fucking illegal next? Coughing already is. Don't have a weed cough in fucking public. You know what I mean? So it's like, I absolutely get you there. We need to find some sense of normalcy, some middle ground that it's not just beneficial for one person or a company, but fucking everybody, homie. You know what I'm saying? For fucking everybody. And that's why we do what we do. And I found that nowhere else than two cultures and two walks of life. That's cooking and cannabis. Those two, they'll accept you from any background. You understand? There are a few guidelines, don't kill one another. There's some commandments, but there's also some shit that you absolutely should do. And paying it forward is something that in both, the cooking industry and the cannabis industry, that's something that you make sure you keep your fucking word and do. You know what I mean? That way, when a person goes, yeah, but this person did that. Well, why did they do that? Nobody asked that question. They just instantly react. That's what I'm saying. Well, time out. This ticket has a modification. You've been fucking taught to make sure you read your modifications because you only get paid to make that shit once, right? Heard. That's my point. Make sure you read your modifications on tickets. For those of my culinary listeners, this is what it is. Just because you got told something, make sure you know the right way to do it. But I'm getting waved at by the producer here. Sorry. We got to keep going on. That's just it, man. We're going to have a fucking blast. I hope to make it out to Boston sometime soon. I would love to, come by, smoke a joint with you, man, pick your brain some more. But unfortunately, we got to get back to the W's because that's what we have a show about. Sorry, that's just, I love it, man. I love it. You're right. Like, we come from some pretty similar fucking, walks of life. And I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. But
I said I would show you. Well, I said I would show you my glass. So you prepare the question and I'll go get that. I got to take my headphone off, but I'll be right back.
You got it. I'm going to take a bong rip, man, and we'll meet you back. Oh, Ramona, you're good, bitch. I'm excited to see this glass. I mean, if Hako says it's, if he remembers it, I should definitely see. Oh, that's the microphone. It fell.
Sorry, my microphone fell.
Right.
If you heard that.
I saw that. Yeah. No, you're all right. I was just saying, if Hako was telling me about it, I got to see this.
Well, so I'll show you the case. So it's from an artist named Nate Myers.
Okay.
And this is the, what is it? It's a pelican case with some nice stickers. But what's cool is some of these stickers are actually some of Nate's other pieces.
Nice.
So that's a Yushin cycle, and then that's a buck. So the one on the right there is probably worth about $50,000. The one on the left is about $25,000. And then here we go. That little robot guy is a Joe P collab, and it's probably worth about $30,000.
Oh shit, that looks pretty sweet, like a little like Gundam.
I don't own any of those, but they're just so cool. I have stickers of them.
Yeah. Oh, dude, 100%. There's this like very like VIP exclusive glass event that happens in Vegas every year, apparently, but I don't think it happened last year or what's going on this year. But that's what it is. And so, there's pieces there that have like I've seen hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know if I could do it, dude. I mean, here's the thing. I have a problem with owning an expensive vehicle. Like, holy shit. Oh my God. That looks sweet. That is really sweet. Now you can smoke out of that though, no problem though, right?
It's a dab rig.
Oh, yep.
It's from back when there used to be domes and nails. But you could put a banger on that.
Yeah.
Now that's called a low profile transition. So you see how it's the stub there? Normally that would be like an inch. That's a low pro transition. So you can put a banger on there, but it's only like a quarter of an inch tall.
Right.
And the dome has the matching leaves there, and those leaves are a collab with a woman named K-Sass, and the artist who made the tubing with the beautiful moons and the red. Those are Millies, by the way. That artist is Nate Myers.
Nate Myers.
Yeah. And so,
I've heard that name before. Why have I heard that name before?
How much would you ballpark it at if you had to guess?
$2,000.
Yeah, 2,400.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Oh, damn. I watched a lot of Antiques Roadshow, so that you can blame my mom and my grandmother for that. They're like, you should go on The Price is Right. I was like, no, I'm always wrong.
Knowing the price of glass is impressive, and I will show you. There's also this little.
So knowing, nice. So you can't really tell, but it's this green and white. Okay.
Yeah.
This is about the size of my arm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a perfect size for when I play Xbox on the couch. I just lean over and I can just let it rest there, and it's not bothering me. It's really heavy. How much do you think I paid for this piece?
Hold on, let me see. Nine. Let me see. 9. No, it's not 9 millimeter, is it? No, it looks like 5. Is it glass on glass at the joint? Is there a down stem in there?
There's a down stem in there. Yes.
So it's a fixed down stem. It doesn't come out.
Yes. Yeah. So I have to scrub it with a pipe.
250 to 300.
No.
How much?
$40.
Wow, so you got it secondhand or from the glass blower?
No, I bought it from a local, like it's like a Wild Bill's like smoke shop.
Huh,
Every so often. That's not, and that's what I went in there to buy a new dab rig. You know, my buddy Adam Brooks was telling me to get one with a glass globe on it and with the water, and so I did. I picked up a little silicone one to try it, named Goober, because you have to name everything. And so I love that. And then I saw that bowl there, and I was like, wait a minute. I got enough allowance left to pick that up. I can't say I was just drawn to it, and that happened, you know. And so
I'm surprised
I picked it up.
I'm surprised you've never clicked my Facebook profile picture. But if you click it, if one day that is me holding a ram. Now that guy's named Robert Allen Mickelson.
Right.
And that is a functional dab rig that is an exact replica of a Sniper Tavor bullpup.
Jeez, that's insane. That's insane. You know, it's crazy. But
the clip, it has a clip, and each individual bullet is made of glass and moves in the clip.
No.
Yeah. Now
that's so sweet.
How much?
I'm not doubting that. That's just insane.
Oh, but I didn't buy that. My friend did. But how much do you think that one ran?
Dude, easy $500,000.
No, God, you're way off.
Seriously?
8K. Yeah, 8K for clear. 8,000 for if it were worked, like if it were a collab or if it had color, 25 to 50.
Okay.
The most expensive glass pieces, like some people value these like stupid prices, like $1 million, but realistically, the highest price I've ever heard of a piece of glass selling for is 100,000, and it was a Mothership glass FTK, which is Fab to Klein, collab with Sagan, and Sagan sent part of Sagan's a glass artist who's known for doing space, but not like Nate Myers space, more like these like moon, these like gray moons. And anyway, so he took chunks of opal and put them on a balloon with a GoPro and sent it up into space. And then the balloon popped and the chunks fell back to Earth and he got them. So the 100K piece is a mothership, which is already very expensive. Their top of the line at the time, which was an FTK collab with Sagan, and it had those chunks of opal that had been sent up into space.
That's so much thought behind, and that's just it. Like, I bought that because it was cheap and it fit a it had a purpose. That's to me, chef knife. Like, chef knives are the exact same way, and that's why I can relate to glass pieces so much, because there's, if you've got a Kramer or a Robert Kramer, if you've got a Robert Kramer, if you've got a Henkel's, if you've got something and about the carbon ratio and this and that and sharpen it a certain way, there's so much to it that, to be honest with you, as a chef, I think some of those are awesome. I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. And there's a place and purpose for it. Do I care for all of that? No. Just, is the knife sharp? Great. Does it cut? Fucking great. Can I do what I need with it? Fucking great. Does it serve a purpose? Awesome. When I buy knives, I use them. That's what I was saying about buying, a glass piece that, I couldn't spend more than $100 or a couple $100. Maybe
that's not why
1,000, but that's it.
That's not why people buy them, though.
Right. Okay.
They're not. I mean, some people are buying it because they appreciate the art. But have you ever wondered why the art market is so weird? Have you ever thought about like Christie's and some of these other auction houses? Anything with intrinsic value attracts people with a lot of money that they can't spend otherwise, because there's no way to track the value of art. Art doesn't have a value based on itself as a raw commodity. Art's value is what someone pays for it. So that is an appreciable asset that has a lot of value to people who are in high finance. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with glass. The difference is it's not high finance.
No,
I won't explain it, but anyway, it's the same concept.
Right. No, I love that. And that's a very precise, and concise way to put it. And it helps me understand it better, and it's interesting because I can relate to that in plates of food. There's certain ways that if I were to set something down and be like, all right, that's duck à l'orange. And you're like, yeah, but that looks like something I would buy at my local, restaurant. Like, that looks pretty run of the mill. Like, I've seen this before. That's what that is. It's nothing special. And then if I take it and add a little bit of, gastronomy, or a little bit of techniques, a little bit of flavor, a little bit of experience, and do what's called upscale it. You see what I'm saying? Bring a little art to it, a little flavor, alter a few things, make it my own, really, is basically what you're fucking doing. But the point is, you alter that. Now, what you say, $12.95, you know what I'm saying? Now this shit's worth $120. It's that whoever's hand touches it. And there are people in the chef world that they have that Midas touch. You understand? Sean Brock, my boy, I wish I could meet him personally and shake his hand, because it's like, dude, anything that guy touches is just instant magic. There's countless others. And again, going back to talking about, if I didn't name all of them, I'm going to get upset that we don't name the rest of them. And that's the truth, and I apologize about that. But there are those chefs that get it. And there's people out there that, I love the intrinsic value that you touched on, because there are people out there that, okay, I've got the lavish art, I've got the newest this, and I've got that, and I've got this, and I've got this. What else do I need? I need a private chef. I don't want just any, private chef. I want the one that's going to push boundaries, and I'm going to taste things that have never been tasted before. And then now you have the cannabis scene that just happens on everybody. And now you have those same people going, I want a new cannabis chef, or I want this and I want that. And now you have Food Network bringing out their brand new Cannabis Chopped show.
Yeah, I saw something about that. Don't know. I don't watch. I think the last time I watched TV was I watch TV for, sometimes I'll turn on sporting events, but I don't think I've seen a TV show outside of Netflix since, oh God, trying to think, maybe the first episode of Game of Thrones when it was actually on
man.
HBO as a TV channel. The very
That's like
first
2012,
episode.
2011.
Yeah,
And
that was the last time I actually watched a TV
Huh.
show. Yeah.
You know what? I'm right there with you, bud. I'm right there with you. Like, it's interesting you should say that. It's dude, it's crazy. I love it. But you're absolutely right. And then it became, you know, hey, I can watch shit on my phone, or I can watch it when I want to. Oh, right. Screw TiVo. I can just watch. The convenience happened. You see what I'm saying? That's the point of it. And so
I'm sure they'll do that for that cannabis show. But when you say like, when you said like, oh, it's on a TV channel, I thought, oh man, But then I realized when I said, oh, I don't watch TV, I had just turned on, I don't watch it on the TV, but I had just watched my cable to see the March Madness tournament. I didn't actually watch it on the, you know, March Madness website. I actually went to my cable company and watched it that way. And I saw a commercial for the first time, because I use ad block, in like 5 years. And I was so perplexed. I muted it right away and went to a different tab. I could not deal with it. I just could not watch it.
All right. Side note, I'm about to blow your fucking mind. Are you ready? Okay. Side note. You know how to work YouTube. I'm not going to explain all that shit to you. All right. Go to YouTube and type in 90s cartoon commercials or 90s Saturday morning cartoons, and it'll give you the full block. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Watch the cartoons if you want it or not. Look at those fucking commercials.
Oh, yeah. I've watched
those.
Holy
shit, they're terrible.
Whenever I come across those videos on YouTube, I'm like, oh, how has no one copyrighted these? And then I realize, oh, they don't care. But the other interesting thing is, I not only watch those old commercials, I go even further and I watch like 1970s and 1980s territory wrestling. So like, oh, I find it so fascinating.
You go deep in that bitch.
Oh, I don't like modern wrestling at all. But I really, really like watching like 1980s, like Mid-South territory wrestling, not because I like to watch them wrestling, but because it was a regional TV show broadcast over the air from Memphis that reached like 700,000 people.
Right.
And so
it had a limited reach, but it was
no. For that time, that was like more.
Oh, that's huge. But I'm saying like today's numbers, that ain't shit.
Oh, right. But the point is
that's a whole. Yeah.
It's interesting to watch it because it has this really low production value, but the people on it who are speaking are very talented. So it's kind of fascinating to see like how they made so much with just their voice without anything else going on. It was very interesting.
Oh, dude, and it's. Look at the leaps and bounds we've come just as a society. You know, I'm seeing things in my lifetime that I would have never expected to see. You know, I'm experiencing things in my lifetime that I would have never expected to experience. You know, if you would have told me 20 years ago, hey, by the way, you're going to want to learn to wear a mask because you're going to have to for a full year, or this is going to happen, or COVID's going to kill the restaurant industry, I would have been like, yeah, whatever, dude. You know what I mean? I want to smoke what you're smoking. I want what drugs you're on, you know, whatever. Fast forward to now, my bad. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where it's at. Like no one really could have seen this coming. And for those of people that did see this coming, you know, half of those people are conspiracy theorists and they're just crazy anyways. But I do know where to get a tinfoil hat when I need one. Look at that however you want. But the point is, you know, some conspiracy theories have a truth.
Well, you say tinfoil hat, you make me think of that Weird Al Yankovic video. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, the parody.
I meant Signs, but that'll work too.
Well, the parody. Oh, Signs is a good one, but the parody of Lord's song that Weird Al does is great. But what you just said, it's interesting you bring up Signs. I don't know why my brain went here, but have you ever really thought about that movie Signs in the context of the metaphor they were trying to say about water?
Yeah, I have. And then that led into a little delve of, okay, why is it illegal, you know, to collect rainwater? You know what I mean? It is. In some states, it's illegal to collect rainwater. I believe federally. I'm not 100% sure on that.
No, that's not federally. Not federally. But yeah, there are some statutes locally and stuff. Yeah.
So why? You understand why? And they say, well, we haven't had a chance to clean it for you yet. What? You know what I mean? And so it's just like, that's not Who were you? You know what I mean? No,
Well,
no.
just that, but the father in the movie is a preacher, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know why my brain went there, but there's still more thinking I want to do about that movie, Signs. And if you remember, that was back before M. Night Shyamalan lost all his credibility.
Yeah.
So people still it was before the last movie
Yep.
he had a lot of credibility for was The Village. That like after The Village. Now The Village was also another one. If you notice,
Lake in the Water, I believe it was. After
that was the one where he kind of you'll like this reference. I'll see if you can get it. Jump the Shark.
Yeah.
Do you know the reference?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? That's most people do not know that these days.
So here's the thing about M. Night Shyamalan. He's a plot twister, okay? But when you sit down and you look at you come into film, you learn who these people are cinematically. A. B. Yeah. More than that, you learn about how these people are story writers. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So when I look at something, I got to read something. There's got to be something behind it. There's got to be a meaning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what was the name of the character? Fuck, I got baked and forgot. Who's the guy? Okay, in The Lady in the Water, who's the guy with the big arm?
You know why? I didn't see it, and the reason why is that was the first movie I heard where he kind of like went off a cliff, So, but anyway, I don't want to make you not remember. I do want to ask you though, because I'm going to say it. I'll say mine afterwards. If it's M. Night Shyamalan, that's great too. But who's your favorite director? You were saying you like to look at movies in the context of their themes.
So I wouldn't say M. Night Shyamalan at all. Nothing against the man. Just don't do that. I really, really like. Oh, that's hard. Okay. Give me a second. Scorsese's great. Yeah. Okay. He's great. Spielberg, you got to give it to him. Jurassic Park, classics. Let's go.
Well, except for that, what was that?
I know who it is. I know who it is.
The dinosaur movie that Spielberg did. Not the dinosaur movie. The real life animation movie. The one movie he did that was a flop in the 80s.
I don't remember.
But anyway, Spielberg's entire career was hits.
Oh, dude, except for one film. Right there. But that's my point. Everybody in their past that's went on to do great things. Directors, yourself, myself, we all have that one L that we, or some losses. We had to learn from it. You know what I'm saying?
Except for one director who I think you'll agree with me. Stanley Kubrick.
Who? Yes, Kubrick. Hang on.
His first film was 1958, Paths of Glory, black and white, great war movie.
Yep.
Then he basically went right into making Dr. Strangelove, which was so good that if you had everyone should see Strangelove. He was so good at what he did that the CIA wrote him a letter. You can look this up on Google, saying, "How did you figure out what our B-2 bomber looked like on the inside?" Because his replica in the movie, in terms, not the actual like outside of it, because they didn't build a scale, they just had the cockpit, was so accurate that the CIA got worried about it. Now, anyway, Kubrick's my favorite director because of this reason. And I just learned this. I mean, I've seen every Kubrick film. I've probably watched some of them like 15 times, but The Shining, you've seen it?
Yes.
Okay. What would you say if I told you that the film actually depicted Wendy degrading into a state of mental hallucinations, and
I agree with you.
Yeah, and that Jack didn't die chasing them out to the maze. That scene when Wendy hits him with a bat and he falls down the stairs, she killed him at that point, and everything else is just a hallucination.
Oh, 100%. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's more than possible. It's extremely probable, because here's the thing. That's everything that dissolves away must be a little bit of truth, right? I mean, that's a very modern and sardonistic way of looking at the whole Sherlockian Holmes theory. You know what I'm saying? What is it? Observe, deduce, and calculate. So we look at the picture. There's our 1,000 words. Of those 1,000 words, which ones stick? What's it pulling together? Boom, 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 boom. And we do that like this, y'all. You know, so looking at that from a Kubrickian standpoint. Sorry, dry mouth. Okay. Yes, that makes sense. More so because of, you know, old Stanley. That's what he do. You know, here's Johnny. That's those. I could see that. I could absolutely.
Do you
see
know the
that.
motivation behind it too? This part is my favorite part. So in the Kubrick movie, The Shining, you know, is based on Stephen King's book by the same name.
Right. Right.
Do you remember the scene when Jack is driving back to the overlook in the yellow buggy in the snowstorm and he passes the overturned tractor trailer on the road? It's quick, but do you remember it? It's like you can look up the scene on YouTube if you want, but it's a very quick scene.
I'm going to have to go back and watch it, but I mean, it's
important. But anyway, so you see Jack driving this yellow buggy up a winding road. The road's actually called Road to the Sun Road or Path to the Sun Road, where they filmed it. That great scene where there's like the lake and the big road. Anyway, so Jack's driving up the winding road. He sees a tractor trailer crashed and flipped over. And you can see in the scene that the tractor trailer is flipped over onto a car. And if you look really closely, you can actually see it's a red VW Beetle. And if you were just watching this film, you would have no idea. But the beauty of good art is that if you read Stephen King's book, you would know that in the book, Jack drives a red VW Beetle. So the message Kubrick was sending to King, which we very well know is what he did, was that I've crushed your vision of this and I've made my own.
I'm putting my own spin on it.
That's what Kubrick was doing. So first of all, Kubrick was very benevolent, right? Like he was trying to use this movie to show how terrifying it can be probably to go through schizophrenia. Right. So, but at the same time, he was very much criticized because in order to actually get that performance out of Shelley Duvall, who was the actress who played the wife, he had to torment her on screen and it left her like permanently scarred for life. But the point is thus, Kubrick, what he was doing there is that in the original book, The Shining by Stephen King, the character of the wife is exactly what you'd see in the surface of the movie. This strong-willed person who was put into a terrible situation that she just cannot.
It fit the image from the book. Yeah. I could narrate it.
But what Kubrick was actually doing was making Wendy, and if you notice, the character he picked for her is kind of Shelley Duvall was beautiful but meek. She looked weak. And what he was doing was he was crushing King's vision of this strong, independent heroine and replacing her with a character and vehicle that he used to tell a story about what it would be like to experience a descent into schizophrenic hallucinations. And so that was just another way for Kubrick to take King's original. And if you can read stories about this, King is to this day hates that movie, not just because
I wouldn't doubt it,
but because every single part of the movie is a destruction of his original vision. And I don't mean to say that's the beautiful part about it, but I like it for the same reason I like Robert Allen Mickelson, that glass artist we were talking about. He does not smoke cannabis and he hates guns, but he makes glass guns that you can smoke cannabis from. And that's why I like it.
I mean, it's better than blowing smoke up your ass, right? There you go. I had to have something. It was terrible, but no. And that's my point. Like to go right back, I did think of if I had to pick one director that's well known above all, hands down, and this guy has not made a terrible film. Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie. You don't know Guy Ritchie?
I mean, I know Guy. I'm just trying to think. What film? I mean,
Two Smoking Barrels.
Yeah, no, of course, I love that film.
Rock and Rolla. He did that. Was that King Arthur? That was dope as shit.
Didn't he do one of those like zombie spin-offs, or was that the Hot Fuzz?
Yeah, I think it was one of the. Yeah, I think it was Hot Fuzz. And guess what? Fucking amazing. That was amazing. Exactly. He's known for those like.
You might be, but the thing is, maybe it's because he's a little newer. My brain immediately went to another director. I don't know if you've heard of Hal Ashbury.
Nope.
Oh, so this is a film I make it a point anytime I end up in a film discussion to recommend, although I recommend every Kubrick film, especially Eyes Wide Shut, which we didn't get to talk about, but I recommend every Kubrick film and then one other film that I think is actually better than every Kubrick film. Not necessarily the camera work or the beautiful sort of cinematic transitions or the depth or the perfection of each shot, but because I think the trick it pulls is the greatest trick I've ever seen in a movie. And the movie's called Being There from 1979, and it stars Peter Sellers, who I'm sure you've heard of, pretty famous actor. Peter Sellers would have, for those who are going to watch it, Peter Sellers would have won Best Actor that year, he thinks. He was nominated, except for the fact that the end credits of the movie break the illusion. So that's all I'm going to say. Don't spoil the movie for yourself if you're going to watch it. It is an absolute treat. And if anyone does watch it, especially you, Rodney, I want to know what you think about that movie when the end credits roll for the first time. It's called Being There from 1979.
Yep. No, 79. Sorry, I wrote 78. I got you. No, I'm definitely. I love homework, man. I love it. But it's dude, Guy Ritchie. I gotta say you gotta go back and watch his shit and try and tear it apart, because if you do, you fuck with the story. And that's the problem. If it's got a solid story, there's solid content. To modernize this conversation, if there's solid content, people are going to catch on to it. People are going to want it. But what makes this content different from that? Very simply put, if we go back to The Shining, if you read Stephen King's, you're like, that's great. And then, you can narrate it and stuff like that to the movie. But it's like playing, what is it? Pink Floyd's The Wall on the Dark Side, or the Dark Side of the Movement album to The Wizard of Oz, and it syncs up perfectly.
Oh, that's so great.
That's my point. Like, maybe it was fucking intended that way.
Hold on. It doesn't just sync up, though. It's even more impressive than that. It's a mirror image. So the film is exactly double the length of the album, and the album works as a millisecond by millisecond commentary on the film. Even though you have to play the album once and then play it again, it still works.
It still lines up.
So that makes me think. So first of all, that movie, you just walked into another minefield. By the way, my brain. So this is kind of how my brain works. I could never just tell anyone all of this, but if you say something, it will just kind of come out. But that movie, The Wizard of Oz, people do not realize how amazing it is. It's actually about a very short-lived political party from the 1800s in America called the Grange, which was a farmers' party that developed when there was kind of like post Reconstruction tension in the lead up to McKinley being elected in the 1800s before. So McKinley was elected in 1896 and got shot in 1901 by an anarchist in Buffalo, and then he was replaced by Teddy Roosevelt as president. And when Teddy Roosevelt was president, that's when we had our first ever progressive era. But before that, there was kind of a blip on the radar where this party called the Grange, it has a long name like the Farmers International Grange or something. I forget its exact name. But anyway, it's called the Grange.
There's
and in
an
the
acronym, right?
Yeah, not an acronym. A Grange is like a barn. So
right, but if Grange stands for like so many long titles, it's an acronym.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
I want to get it right now because I feel a duty. Grange party. Yeah, it was National. So the full title was National. The Grange is like the building, but the full title is the National Grange of the Order of Patrons of Husbandry. Husbandry is when you are a farmer and you raise animals. But anyway, so this political party existed for like 7 years in the 1880s, but the movie The Wizard of Oz is actually about that movement, that populist farmers movement. So then when you think about Pink Floyd in 1970 watching The Wizard of Oz, they had to have figured all this stuff out,
Oh, yeah.
because all the themes of the dark side of the moon, like money and all these, it's all about a deconstruction of post-capitalist society. And that's what that 1880s movement was for the first time.
I'm telling you right now, I mean, that's my point. Like, you take away all the bullshit facts, and when you're looking at a picture, boom, there it is. All of those things stand out and they're abundant. Is that a conspiracy theory? No. Did either the artist, was it synced up? Most likely. It's too astronomically impossible to be improbable. You feel me? So, that being said, man,
that was a lot of fun.
Insane. Oh no, it was a lot of fun, dude. I don't really get, schooled on a lot of things, and I fucking love it. It's good to be able to reach out and be like, finally someone's seen that. I do have to ask you though, real quick, what do you think about 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Oh, it's another great film. I think for the time, I mean, I don't know as much about computer generated graphics and stuff, but for what that did at the time, like, so Wizard of Oz was not the first, I think it was actually the first movie to use color, and they actually colored every single scene, like every single frame by hand.
Technicolor, is that what it's called?
Yeah, but it wasn't just Technicolor. It was like a very early adaptation of it where they had to draw the color on the actual film negative.
Oh,
yeah, that was the Wizard. At least I think. I haven't read about that in like 10 years. I might be wrong.
That would have been painstaking.
Yeah, but they had to do it because it was, I mean, that's how revolutionary, and it blew people's mind in 1939, I think, when The Wizard of Oz came out. But anyway, so the first color broadcast of TV was 1959, I think. Eisenhower was president, and it was the NBC affiliate in Washington, D.C. They did the first ever color TV broadcast. So 2001: A Space Odyssey was only like 10 years or whatever after people had seen color TV for the first time. So seeing that movie after that, I mean, I would love to have been in the theater for that. I can only imagine what it was like.
Oh, there's scenes that, like, everyone's got a surround sound system, or something like that, or you're wearing headphones or whatever have you. Yo, how be creeping me out? Like, he says some creepy shit, and it's just so monotone and in that robotic voice, and then there's nothing. You won't hear anything, and you're like, did I hear something or did I not? It fucks with you. It does, mainly because, like, I'm used to noise and clanks, and I need that. If I don't have that, I'll have tinnitus. It's the hums in the kitchen. You know what I'm saying? The clanking, the pots and pans, everything. I don't have that anymore. And, like, I'm so used to background noise that I find myself, like, I'll be writing content for shows, or I'll be writing, in my, adding to my book and doing chapters, editing and shit. And then I'm also being published in 13 Folds magazine, in a magazine here in Michigan. So it's like I'm doing all this writing. I love writing. It's a new thing. It's like cooking. Once, we sink our fangs into something, we obsess about it. It's just my personality. And so being able to do that with cannabis and, like, do the show and stuff, like, I have to be doing more than one thing at once. So it takes a lot. And that's where cannabis comes in, Fucking my main bitch here, Ramona, she's helping me. Like, I got to be able to focus on task. And that's why we've jumped and missed all kinds of, dude, this is amazing. It really is. Like, we really need to have a conversation about, like, zombie movies. Like, there's always that question of, like, okay, cinematically, you've seen this. All right. Cinematically, you've seen this. There's this whole zombie film era. And it starts with, give me a minute, Ramirez, I think it is. George Ramirez? Romero. George Romero, sorry. George Romero really did, like, the whole, like, not the Walking Dead thing, but it was like, the Dawn of the Dead. Back when they were, like, using chocolates, syrup and black and white and chicken to get, squirts and effects and stuff. And it's just like, dude. Yes, and then you look at, your Alfred Hitchcocks before that with, like, Psycho and The Birds,
The Birds is, or Vertigo was another good, but The Birds, I was actually talking to a friend, very close friend, who's very dear to my heart, and she said, "Oh, I've had a fear of birds my whole life," and I said, "You work outside, I won't tell you what she does, but you work outside. What do you mean you have a fear of birds? Oh, well, I saw an Alfred Hitchcock movie named The Birds when I was growing up. I've had a fear of birds.
Which is interesting because like a lot of people say the same thing about Stephen King and It.
Yeah, I could see that. You know what did it for me? Chucky. That was when I was growing up. Do you remember that movie, The Bride of Chucky, the doll? So I could not, I mean, I was never a collector of action figures or anything, but I could not do even like stuffed dolls. It just, I couldn't do it.
So I'll be the first to tell you, I don't really fear death. I mean, the bastard took 34 years to get me. So I kind of lived halfway good, but hey, listen, when old death comes knocking, I'm not the one that's, shit. I got some coffin nails to hand over. You feel me? So the point is, I don't really fear death. A lot of people, that's number one. Not for me. I fear a lot of things in life, but you got to understand that eventually whatever is going to happen and couldn't have really happened in your reality in any other way. Until you can say that sentence that way, you can't really prosper, man. You're looking at everything paranoid, and you're too tangible to things. Okay. I get, why people say that ghosts exist. I get why I get why that's there. You understand? I understand that. Theology helps with it, influences a lot of it. I get all of that. What I don't fucking understand is why cotton balls exist. Why?
That was a nice turn.
Why? I absolutely am fucking terrified of cotton balls.
I don't even think I've ever. Now I'm thinking about it. Like maybe when I was 7 and I was like painting or something, I remember putting some paint remover on a cotton ball. I have not seen a cotton ball in 20 years.
Whew. Good. I want to live your life.
Have you been running into cotton balls or something?
So I make it a fucking point to avoid them at all costs. Okay. There is a story that I will share with you briefly. Growing up, I told, only a select few people knew that, a couple of my friends did know that. Okay. They thought it would be funny. Those little jokesters. To go down and buy a shit ton of cotton balls at Walmart or whatever the store was. I don't remember. It was Target could have been. I don't even remember at this point. But they went and bought a shit ton of cotton balls, and while I was sleeping in my bedroom, they snuck in the back door, as my friends should. That's fine. I don't give a shit. Mi casa, su fucking casa, right? Until this day. Until they proceeded to cover me in my own bed in cotton balls.
Yeah.
When I tell you that I lost my motherfucking mind, that is no understatement. Are you serious right now? I just thinking about it. Yeah. So to get back at these sons of bitches, every single one of those little fucks absolutely denounces and absolutely despises snakes. So what did I do? I went down to the local creek. If and y'all don't know, it's just out in the backyard. Springtime in Michigan, they're fucking everywhere. Garter snakes.
Yeah.
I may or may not cut, a couple dozen of them up. I lost count. I may or may not have waited till they was sleeping at the house and hanging out. I may or may not have gotten into their basement and just let all the snakes go. To be fair, I didn't think about the other side of that, where their parents would now be, okay, maybe me not coming over anymore. That does make sense. But I fucking won.
Well,
they were finding snakes in that house for the next 2 years.
There was a little bit of an escalation, but
no, you don't cross the line with cotton balls.
Well, but see, you showed them that they may not have understood, but your fear of cotton balls was on par with. You reminded me, and it will be my second to last story, and then I'm gonna go eat soon. But my last story will be a fun little party trick I don't break out very often involving U.S. presidents, but. You reminded me of a story, hypothetically, when a group of young college students were on some kind of LSD and happened to be sitting in the basement of a house. And one of the college students was very afraid of snakes, not me. And another of the college students, not me as well, convinced the person with a fear of snakes that we were in the belly of a snake in the basement of the house.
No.
And so that was a very, very traumatizing experience for that person, I'm sure. I got a kick out of it. But at the time, I was obviously, hypothetically, not in my right mind. So
I just, it was just all of my life I've worked in kitchens. And so a chef's fingers are different because I could grab shit that's 200 or 300 degrees and just move it. And you'll be like, seriously, I'll burn we just have calloused hands from working, and it's to the point where, like, if I touch anything super soft that is reminiscent of cotton balls, ain't happening. I can do it. I'm going to hate every minute of it. And you best move because I'm running one fucking way. It's away from this shit. You understand? Completely irrational. It's just, a terrible, terrible thing for me. But one of the last things that I had to make sure that we got to was the Plan W's, man. And I think that this little who, what, when, where, and why is going to kind of help us better understand the other side of the spectrum. That is Mr. Grant Smith here. Dude, again, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. Seriously, it's been a fucking great time being able to discuss, movies, art, cannabis, just, dude, that's a wholesome time, man. If I do say so myself, you feel me?
great time myself.
Absolutely, man. All right. Well, Grant, if you're ready, we'll dive right in this last little bit, finish it up in a neat little bow, and then sign off, if you will. So if you're ready for the Plan W's, man, we'll throw them at you.
Go ahead.
All right. Who, what, when, where, and why, Grant? Who do you wish you could smoke with, dead or alive?
That's Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. I'm good with that. All right. Plan W's. Who, what, when, where, and why? What would you smoke with old Thomas Jefferson?
Whatever I guess I'd smoke some of what he would want to grow or was growing.
I'd be like, yo, dab this. He'd be like, what?
I don't know about that. I don't think he would like that. I think I'd have to be a little more gentle and probably introduce him to modern flower. That would probably be enough of a shock to the system. I don't know if getting Thomas Jefferson high on dabs would be very good. He might get a little bit overwhelmed.
I mean, he's already died once.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's true.
That's
but I figured I'd have a short amount of time with him, and I want him fully lucid so I can get as much information as I can out of him.
Smoke a joint. Let's just keep it. Yeah, that answers the next point. Yeah. Who, what, when, where, and why? What would you smoke with him? Okay, we'll go with the joint. All right. When would you want this to take place? Would it be back in time, or would it be right now or in the future?
Now's fine. I think he'd be a lot more comfortable now, and I would not do very well if I had to live in the 1700s. I'm sure I would have been stoned to death or
lynched.
Otherwise quickly
that was the
killed.
thing.
No,
yeah.
Well, thankfully, I guess they did burn people at the stake, but yes, I probably would have tried to stop a lynching or otherwise stand up for the rights of someone who was going to be killed because of their skin color or something, and they would have killed me too. So I think it would be good to bring Thomas Jefferson here now. That would probably be a little better.
I mean, that's what he did, right?
Yeah, he had some faults, and he for someone who understood principles, did not understand how to apply them universally. He seemed to live, and it was byproduct of his time, but it was also his fault for not understanding that there's no distinction between any human being. And he'll forever, no matter how many ideas he passed on that may have helped people, he'll forever be subject to that kind of, mark on his reputation. And there's no way that he'll ever escape that.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. I mean, whereas here now we're kind of, pivoting that on the flip side of the coin, like I was talking about at the beginning of the show. You understand? Just because we flip a coin, we have, 50-50 chance of being right or wrong, But here's the thing. What makes one side of the coin different from the other? They're really no different. They're the same coin. They exist in order to have the other exist. It's a kind of a counterbalance that we kind of metaphysically look at. And again, to learn why things operate, how they operate, and just right behind, who these people are in the cannabis industry these days, myself included here, and why they do, it is really good to know at the end of the day, who, what, when, where, and why would you smoke with Thomas Jefferson?
Well, transitions into the party trick I was going to do, which was because I have a very strange interest in U.S. history, and he experienced a unique part of it firsthand. And the party trick I'll leave us with, so you can sign off once I'm done, is let's see if you can follow along. I'll start at William McKinley, and I'll do this list of names. I'll see if I can do it off the top of my head, and we'll see if you can follow each one. So McKinley, Roosevelt, Wilson, Harding, Cleveland, Hoover, FDR, Truman, Eisenhower, JFK, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Bush the first, Clinton, Bush the second, Obama, Trump, Biden.
I can't do that. No. I got back to Reagan, dude. Like, that's where I'm at. Damn.
I'm still working on from George Washington onward, but I got McKinley through Biden.
I couldn't. No, I mean, you know, I look at it this way. Like, I'm a person of resourceful knowledge, and there's things that I do retain, things that I do, et cetera, that interest me. You are a history buff, so that would interest you. So that makes sense. If you ask me about chefs, that's a different story. You see what I'm saying? And you're like, well, what? You know, and that's my point. Different walks of life, different spice of lives, all flavors matter. That should be a shirt.
Oh,
that should be a fucking... Can't get mad at that. That's so that's vaguer than vague. You understand? That's vaguer than vague. But I fucking love your party trick, dude. I also love more. You know, you get to spend this time with me today. Like, dude, we fucking shot the shit. Like, very, very rarely do we, like, you know, steer off course. We're known for it here. But, you know, I love it when, you know, another person that you can kind of like meet and talk about these things. And that's my point. These conversations, y'all, still do need to happen. It couldn't have happened with a realer person, man. Grant, thank you again. Seriously, I appreciate it, man. You guys make sure you go check out his website. You want to tell him what it is? Or scrolling below, you know, the entire show.
I saw that. Yeah, no, you can find my work at grantsmithellis.com. You can also find me at patreon.com /Grant Smith Ellis. All my work's free to access on grantsmithellis.com, or you can follow me on Facebook. It's completely free. But if you want to support what I'm doing, you can support my Patreon for as low as $3 up to, you know, someone gave me $50 a month, blew my mind. All that money, I'm on SSDI, but it basically goes to helping me continue to provide that free information. But I want to be clear, you can get the information for free on grantsmithellis.com or on my Facebook. You do not have to subscribe. But if you subscribe to the Patreon, sometimes, not every article, but sometimes I'll give you an hour heads up if you're a subscriber, and you'll see a piece of breaking news. It could be on anything from boycotts to legislation to regulations to an interview. You sometimes will see that a little early.
Definitely a speaker box that you want to tune into, y'all. We remember those. We would always take them to the, there's construction sites playing, and we take them to kitchens. Everywhere has a speaker box. You hear it live first. You hear the real grassroots people out on the verb or on the sound pipe. We're doing what we're doing on the internet. We're taking a little bit of old school and ashing it with this new flavor, you know, of life. Like, that's what it's about, man. Getting it to the head, and you are absolutely known for that. You're absolutely known for that. Like, I've been trying to get this interview for a while now. You know what I'm saying? We've been missing each other. Like, it just hasn't worked. I was like, we could pre-record. No, it had to happen live, and people had to see this. You know, if we can help in any way, Deliciously Dope TV, let us know. You know, definitely, man. You're a person that not only do a lot of people who helped me do this respect and know of you already, you were iconic in not only the Boston area, but the New England area to boot. I mean, I've read some of your work, dude, and just the way that you describe things, it's dude, fucking spot on, dude. Seriously, spot on.
It's very kind of you to say, and I appreciate all the work you're doing as well, Rodney, and really like this conversation, and we'll have to follow up no matter what, even if it's off camera, because once you watch that movie Being There, I'm going to definitely look forward to your thoughts.
Oh, 100%. I'm going to watch that shit tonight because I'm going to pick up some more dabs and some more flour. Kind of ran out of myself. It is what it is, but I appreciate you, man. Definitely go check him out. MassCann.org on Instagram. Make sure you watch this speaker box. This dude's doing big things, making big-ass moves on this East Coast. Guys, this has been an amazing episode of the Daily Chronicles. This is why we do what we do, y'all. Until next time, my tokers, my jokers, and my smokers, I'm Chef Rodney 117. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.